Hey guys, Kevin here with etrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Optronics Opti-Brite LED dome light. So our neighbor has to pull his race car into his trailer every now and then, depending on the racetrack that he's on, because he doesn't always have the space. Pulling into this trailer before we put our lights in, it was very dim, he couldn't really see anything, so working on his car was going to be really hard to do. So instead, we installed these LED dome lights that are going to give him a much brighter visibility than any incandescent bulb, and it's going to last a whole lot longer. They're a very low profile dome light, so he's really only losing about a 1/4 inch of space from the ceiling, so he doesn't have to worry about knocking into it. It's not like those bigger bulky ones that you'd see inside of a camper. These LED dome lights are actually compatible with both 12 volt and 24 volt systems as well. So this installation is fairly simple. Your LED dome light is only going to have 2 wires, your positive and your neutral. So hooking that up to your wires is going to be super simple. If you're just replacing an existing light, it's going to be straightforward. All you're going to do is just remove your old light, hook this up to the wires that you already had ran. If it's like our case where I had to run separate lights or wiring all the way through our trailer up to get to our switch, it's going to take a little bit more time and be a little bit more invasive. But all in all, still a fairly simple installation. So what we're going to do is we're going to mount our light up in the ceiling closer to the edge. So I already got directions that he wanted it to be 6 inches from the wall, because we actually have a little metal panel that sits right here. And then also I kind of wanted to center it because we're going to be running 8 lights throughout our trailer here. So I got this in the center of this patch because it's going to be more appealing to the eye. And then 6 inches out. What I did so that I wouldn't mark up our ceiling here was just use some tape, made my measurements exactly where I wanted it, and drew lines. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to drill this out. You got to be very careful, especially on these enclosed trailers, because the ceiling here is really only an inch or 2 from this ceiling to the actual metal roof. So I'm using a hole saw with a center bit that's barely past that, and we're just going to kind of rock it back and forth. That way I can cut through this ceiling without actually puncturing up into our metal roof. Now that I get it loose, we can just break that off. And we have our hole. From there, I'm going to be running my wiring down to a different light so that every light's going to work off of the same switch. So I'm going to drill another hole back here that's going to be hidden behind our metal flashing that we have. That way I can wire this up to each of the other lights. So with my light, I'm going to strip back my casing, do it a little bit further than normal, just because I'm going to fold this wire gauge is so small. I'm going to fold the end over just a bit and then twist it up, just so I can thicken it up a bit before sticking it in the butt connector. Go ahead and do the same thing to our other wire. Then we can put 2 butt connectors on and crimp them down. And then we can run some wiring from our hole that's going to be running to our light over to that hidden hole. That way I can wire this into all the other lights. So while we're down here, I'm going to go ahead and crimp on our wiring that we're going to run over to our power. I'm going to use red for my positive. And yellow for my neutral. And now we can go ahead and stick this up in our ceiling. So now I'm going to stick my 2 wires through, and I'm going to try and get them over to that other hole. With it being so close, I'm not going to bother taping these up and trying to use a fishing rod or anything to pull it through. now that we got that, we can pull our light up into our spot, get it how we want it, and then screw it in place. Once I have it evenly placed, I'm going to put one screw in to start, and then I'm going to get down and just double check that I got both sides straight. I don't want it looking crooked later on. All right, and now we can snap on our cover. And then we can run our power wire over into our next light. All right, so now that we have our other side done and all of our wiring tucked up, I'm gonna put our cover back in place, and then we can make our connections to our power wire. So because I'm gonna be putting a lot of wires together, I'm gonna split up what's gonna be going in what end of the butt connector. I got one side of our lights that I'm gonna hook up with our power and our neutral wire. And before you go ahead and do any of this, make sure that you have your power off. I've already gone ahead and tested with our multimeter, making sure we're good to go. But I'm gonna twist up my power. Put on my butt connector. Crimp that on. And now for our other side of our lights, I'm going to hook this into the light that originally was mounted to our ceiling here. And we're going to hook that into our other side here. So to do that, I can strip back my casing on my wire now. All right, so same thing. We're gonna hook up our powers. And our neutral wires. And then we're gonna run those into our butt connectors. We'll crimp them down. And then we can go ahead and shove all of our wiring back up in the ceiling. And as we're going, I'm going to start screwing in my light panel here. So now we have all of our wiring in place. I closed the toy hauler door back up so we can get a good little view here of how the lights are now. As you can see, way brighter, and now our neighbor is going to have way better visibility when he's trying to work on his race car in between laps. Well, I think that about does it here for our installation of the Optronics Opti-Brite LED dome light. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.